the migrations and the territorial wars of the peoples of Africa, a community comprised of 9 sub-tribes known as the Mizichenda or Mijikenda settled at the east coast of Kenya. 2 of these communities, the Digo and the Giriama, grew in prominence and in size, the latter giving birth to a woman who will set in motion a series of events that boggled the minds of the hostile British invaders and land grabbers. It is no surprise that all the tribes, the Giriama, were chosen. They were known for being fearless and for their clever war tactics. And so, from the rhythmic lands of the east coast of Africa, where the swaying palms move in tunes with the winds of the whispers of the spirit, a deliverer, later named Mekatilili wa Menza, arose. Born Mnyazi wa Menza in the mid-1800s in Mutura Watsatsu, Ganze village, she was the only girl out of 5 children. She and her family were of modest means. Her earliest influences appear to have come from the stories her mother told her that her first spoken by Giriama prophetess Mepoho, who said that men with hair like sisal, who moved on the air, water, and land in vessels, will come and bring changes, some good, some bad. Mnyazi would have been told that this was about the white man who would come to the east coast of Kenya to oppress her people, but that Mepoho had also prophesied that a girl would be born in the Giriama community who would withstand them. Mnyazi was also powerfully impacted when she witnessed the sheer brutality and callousness of the Arab slavers firsthand during a trading visit she made to Malindi. The Arabs ruthlessly and selfishly tore one of her brothers away from his family, and he was never seen again. Mnyazi was married to Deika Waduka and was renamed Mekatilili when their first son, Katilili, was born. Mekatilili was a bold woman who actively participated in traditional women's group known as Hifudu and Makushekushe, eventually rising to lead the latter. By this time, the British were imposing their legitimate authority over Kenya, forcing the Giriama to work as manual laborers in their plantations, conscripting them into military service to fighting in World War I, collecting taxes to finance their legal rule, and inhibiting the free movement of the young men of the community. Mepoho's words must have been ringing in Mekatilili's ears, along with freshly opened wounds of the memory of her brother's abduction. Following Deika's death, Mekatilili rose up with fire in her belly, moving around her community, rallying the people together. It is said that she used the Kifudu funeral dance to call meetings. She drew people together around their traditional shrines and urged both men and women to take oath, denouncing all puppet rulers and proclaiming their support for the Giriama Council of Elders. The Makushekushe oath for the women and the Fisi or hyena oath for the men. This last was said to be one of the deadliest, and that traitors who had taken this oath could die for their betrayal. The activation point came when in 1912, the British dared to post a district officer to Mangea. Before this, the Giriama had not felt the pressure of the colonial administration. The British began to impose taxes and forced labors on the Giriama. The Giriama were a powerful people, certainly not a people inclined to comply with the authoritarian machinations of the British, and they were responding to her call. By 1913, Mekatilili was a woman of great influence and authority, and she did not shrink back from the colonial invaders, imposed presence either. She was ready and willing to go to Bibi Queen, the mother of the Europeans, to protest the unfair and unjust treatment by the foreign invaders. It is said that one meeting she got into an argument with Arthur Champion, the British administrator, and she was so incensed that she slapped him. The Giriama men rallied around her to defend her, and the British cowards responded by firing into the crowd and withdrawing with their man in tow. Under Mekatilili's influence, the Giriama fought back against the British, forcing them to retreat to Rabai. The British retaliated against guerrilla warfare by burning villages and crops and driving away livestock. The British invaders decided that the only way to quell her influence was to arrest her, along with an elder who supported her, known as Wanje wa Madorika or Madorikola. The two were imprisoned across the country in Gusiland, and the British took full advantage of this by subduing the Giriama forcefully. Mekatilili and Wanje confounded the British by not only escaping, but walking back about 1,000 kilometers and stirring up the people against the British once more. They must have been so perplexed by her that they resorted to calling her a mad woman and a witch. Mekatilili and Wanje's efforts eventually led to the Giriama Uprising of October 25th in 1914. Many Giriama people were murdered by the British colonizers, who also burnt down the main Giriama spiritual shrine, Kayafungo. The brave Mekatilili wa Menza was rearrested and this time imprisoned near Somalia. The British also took heavy losses and were never fully able to subdue the Giriama people, and it is said that a truce was negotiated between the Giriama and the British by an Arab, with concessions made on both sides. The Giriama gained through the removal of land restrictions and lightening of labor laws. She and Wanje were released from prison in 1919 and set about to rebuild the Kaya, which did not gain much success or following. Mekatilili died in August 1925. The story of Mekatilili wa Menza shows the strength of an African woman who could not be caged in fear of the British. A true African indeed. But what should her story mean to you as an African man, woman, or youth living in a 2024 civilization? The truth is, even though in papers the colonizers have left the shores of Africa, they have not left in reality. They just changed their names, offices, and uniforms. So instead of the colonizers wearing long boats, khaki shorts, and carrying long guns with whips in their hands, riding on horses, they now come in fine suits. They come looking like you. They arrive in expensive black motorcades. They set up offices in fine towers in our cities, live in the best part of the land, and their whip has become the IMF and the World Bank loans, and the aids of compromised local and foreign NGOs who have become the new spy agencies in Africa. Pay attention and do not be fooled by the big and confusing words they speak. It's your duty to protect Africa. As Africans, we must come to the understanding that our story did not start from the transatlantic slave trade by Europeans or the carefully covered trans-Saharan slave trade by the Arabs and the invasion called colonialism, nor will the story end with the current neo-colonialism happening in the continent right now. But how this ending will play out is in the decision and choices we all make that will take back this continent from those who would rather have us slaves rather than free men. Do your part. Be the change you want to see in Africa.